Mbalula, will then speak to you regarding those outcomes. Over to you, SG.
Thank you very much, Comrade Mahlengi, National Spokesperson of the ANC, and good morning to the journalists who have come to cover our story this morning, and the listeners and the people who will be following this coverage on social media and everywhere else. The National Working Committee of the African National Congress met on Tuesday, the 3rd of July, 2023. This meeting took place immediately after the weekend in which the African National Congress Youth League successfully convened its long-awaited National Congress. This media briefing is to inform the nation of the outcomes of the National Working Committee meeting and the way forward in relation to the matters deliberated upon, their impact on the ANC, the country, and the world. Over the weekend of the 30th June to 2nd July, the ANC Youth League successfully convened its 26th National Congress. The ANC NWC welcomes this very important political milestone, as the ANC Youth League will now effectively position itself as the true champion of youth development, while simultaneously mobilizing them behind the vision of the ANC. This as elaborated in its Twin Tasks mission statement. The Youth League 26th National Congress was convened under the theme Program of Action for Economic Freedom and Social Change, now and not later. Arising from political discussions at the Youth League Congress, it was the reaffirmation of the integrity of the organization, underpinned by its autonomy. Critical in this regard is the fact that National Congress delegates committed themselves to organizational renewal under the leadership of their newly elected officials and the NEC that will ensure sustainability beyond the current leaders and members of the Youth League. The ANC fully supported the Youth League NYTT to convene this National Congress without interfering with the autonomous political processes on matters of political content and leadership preferences. The ANC will continue to defend the autonomy of the Youth League, because it is only in that way that the Youth League leadership at all levels can truly and fearlessly champion youth interests and thereby be relevant to the youth of our country. Therefore, the ANC urged the ANC Youth League to live up to its historic mission of championing youth interests whilst rallying them behind the vision of the ANC. The ANC emphasized that the Youth League must fearlessly define its autonomous role as a disciplined, integral part to the ANC. The NWC was confident that given the political climate under which the Youth League National Congress was convened, both the leadership and membership of the Youth League will now have a deeper appreciation of the importance of building a stronger organization and thereby never repeat the mistakes of the recent past, wherein the organization was in perpetual limbo for about 8 years without a duly elected National Executive Committee. The ANC Youth League is now better poised to champion youth development with regards to combating the high levels of youth unemployment, expansion of youth entrepreneurship opportunities, as well as spearheading skills development industry areas relevant to the economy. The ANC recognizes and accepts that it is in the nature of young people to be impatient with change, and we are looking forward to a vibrant, militant, radical, disciplined, and autonomous ANC Youth League guided politically by the African National Congress. The top 6 officials that were all elected without being contested are President Colin Malachi, Deputy President Phumzile Mgcina, Secretary General Comrade Mtuo Xolo Ngudle, First Deputy Secretary General Comrade Tsakani Shiviti, Second Deputy Secretary General Comrade Olga Siate, Treasurer General Comrade Zwelo Masilela. The ANC Youth League National Congress successfully elected additional members to conclude the National Executive Committee. There will be a hybrid continuation of the conference to conclude the business of conference. The Western Cape ANC conference was also convened. The working committee welcomed the successful sitting of the Western Cape Provincial Conference, which will help coordinate our political and organizational programs in the province as a whole and assert the ANC as the leader of society in the Western Cape. The Provincial Executive Committee of the ANC in the Western Cape will be inducted by Political Education and the Secretary General's office immediately, so that members of the newly elected executive are aligned with their tasks as leadership and what is expected of them as the leadership of the ANC in the province. On the manifesto review, the ANC manifesto review process is at an advanced stage, and both the manifesto and the guidelines for candidate selection process will be presented before the National Executive Committee for consideration and adoption at the meeting to be held from Friday to Sunday this coming weekend. The manifesto review will take place on Monday. After the NEC meeting, we'll report to the nation on the manifesto review process under the theme, how far we have gone to implement Let's Grow South Africa Together. That is important for us because how far we have gone in terms of the implementation of the manifesto is our commitment to the people of South Africa. What we said we'll do in 5 years in office as this administration, what we'll do in terms of growing South Africa together, notwithstanding the challenges that the administration faced over a period of 4 years in office. The ANC is also seized with the process to assess leadership performances during the current government administration. This will enable optimal deployment by the ANC going forward. We characterize this as leadership accountability. The National Executive Committee will also receive the guidelines on this, and then so that as we embark on this path, everybody is aware that these have been adopted by the National Executive Committee of the ANC. We also reflected on the settlement agreement with Solidarity. We received a report on the settlement agreement with Solidarity. This followed the claims by Solidarity that the regulations on the implementation of the Employment Equity Amendment Bill was biased against minority groups and therefore in violation of the Discrimination, Employment and Occupation Convention 111 of 1958. This meeting between the Minister of Labour and Employment and Solidarity was convened under the context of the national mediation process. which is a new requirement introduced by the International Labour Organization. Through this provision, government needed to demonstrate that the allegations put forth by Solidarity were incorrect and damaging to brand South Africa. Hence, the need for the settlement agreement. The agreement stipulates that employment equity is not a one-fit-all, but that provincial variations must be considered. The propaganda characterized by distortions of the Employment Equity Amendment Bill and the subsequently proposed regulations wrongfully suggest that the result of the amendment will be the disposal of Coloureds and Indians from jobs and replacing them with Africans. Some political parties have henceforth grossly misled the masses of our people on this as a way of garnering votes in what is a reigniting of the apartheid era Swartgevaar tactics by creating a fictitious racial gulf premised on baseless fears between Africans on the one hand and the Indians and Coloureds on the other. The NWC emphasized the importance of the ANC participating in public hearings to debunk this propaganda, which clearly is fashioned as a cheap electioneering strategy at the expense of truth by perpetuating racial polarization. The ANC remains committed to resolving the national question. The NWC further highlighted the paramountcy of class analysis as a uniting and an overarching ideological paradigm, spanning all formerly oppressed and marginalized black people, this being inclusive of Coloureds, Africans, and Indians. And in sharp contrast to this new black Gevaar of divide and rule tactics that polarizes society. The ANC will continue to support affirmative action and employment equity, but not as a job reservation tactics, which was notoriously applied by the apartheid regime. You must understand, to us as the ANC, blacks means Indians, Coloureds, and Africans. So that's what blacks to us mean. To others, blacks means something. But to the ANC and our national liberation jargon, we characterize Africans in particular and black in general, and black include Indians and colored people. Therefore, the settlement agreement was aimed at debunking the myth that the employment equity was unconstitutional or a violation of the Discrimination, Employment and Occupation Convention number 111 of 1958. The NWC further reiterates that these regulations are up for public consultations, and we call upon all people and our structures to participate in these public hearings as we strive for a non-racial, non-sexist, democratic, and prosperous society, which is informed by our class analysis and not racial balkanization of society. On socio-economic transformation, the Working Committee noted the continued socio-economic transformation challenges pertaining, among others, the high cost of living, energy challenges, and generally matters of national transformation. The Working Committee discussed the continued challenges pertaining the implementation of the triple BEE, which was further highlighted at the Black Business Summit convened by the Black Business Council. The ANC will strengthen its monitoring on the implementation of the triple BEE, both in the public and private sectors, with proposed timeframes on the accelerated implementation of triple BEE. Our constitutional democracy will be hollow without attaining socio-economic equality across race, gender, and class. On energy, following months of sustained load shedding and the subsequent appointment of a minister in the presidency for electricity to coordinate and drive an all-of-government response restoring energy security, the interventions at Eskom are beginning to show definite signs of turnaround, which will see South Africa being relieved from the devastating socio-economic impact of energy shortfalls. Since 8 May 2023, a range of key performance indicators have all showed signs of sustained improvements. This includes the fact that generation output improved also, average for a week between 8-12 May 2023. For the month of June, the average generation stabilized as well. As part of the winter 2023, planned outages was to be contained, and this has also happened. And we had a massive propaganda and lies that were peddled that were facing grid collapse. And it was rumored to be coming from very reliable sources, intelligence from America and intelligence from South Africa. We all know about the story. There is no grid collapse. I was standing in this platform and Sputla Ramkhopa, the minister, even the president, dispelled this as a total falsehood. Yes, we are faced with challenges, but it will not lead to grid collapse. So we were told that this information comes from the CIA. Now, we don't know that the CIA has got unfettered ground to interfere in our affairs and gather intelligence in South African soil and share it with public representatives in our country without interacting with their colleagues on government-to-government relations, because CIA interacts with South African intelligence. So that CIA is operating in our country and gather information is a cause for concern. But nonetheless, we have not faced that grid collapse during this month of June. This affirms the appropriateness of commitment to maintenance as part of efforts to restore the reliability and stability of the fleet. Unplanned outages, partial load losses as a result of generating units not performing optimally, and outage delays, non-return to service on planned dates, continues to consume a lot of megawatts of generation capacity. The power stations managers are dedicating responses per fall time, with boiler tube leaks being something that persists as a cause of generation capacity losses. Partial load losses has also come down, and from last week, June, and during June 2023, demand has also tracked lower than anticipated band during the winter projection. Again, we were told that we were going to get down to stage 8 during winter. We did encounter load shedding, and then because of the demand is high during winter, nonetheless, we have not as well collapsed. But the propaganda out there was saying that we are getting to stage 8 to stage 10. There's going to be blackouts and all of that. And the improvements are attributed to increased capacity as a result of the return to service of coal-generating units previously decommissioned, improved demand management, consumers being more conscious about energy usage is one of the key elements in terms of this improvement. The increase it yields from wind generation, as well as large power users shutting down plants for plant maintenance during the June month. The improved performance in generation has resulted in an upward trend in the energy availability factor, EAF, and a reduction in the severity of load shedding from daily stages 4 to 6, stage to 1 to 3 for the last 2 weeks of June 2023, with stage 3 largely only during evening peaks, with the remaining part of the day up to 16 hours, subject to only one stage of load shedding. Now, this is very important development in terms of the plans that have been implemented, and we want to raise our salutations to the management of Eskom and the board for keeping the eye on the ball, and all the workers at the plant level of Eskom who are doing their part to ensure that we are able to implement all the plans that the ministry and government have directed that need to be implemented. So working together, everybody can do better, and we can even do better to grow South Africa together. So it is not an individual effort, it is a focused effort at the level of government, but most importantly to Eskom in particular. And that is why Eskom must be supported by all of us, and Eskom must be supported in terms of their endeavor to keep the utility free from all the challenges of state capture and corruption, and ensure that they do what becomes the plan of government, and in that way alleviate a lot of difficulty for our economy, SMMEs, as well as different livelihoods, families in our country. Cost of living, the NWC noted that 7.1% inflation is well beyond interest targeting range, leading to higher cost of living. Whilst the Working Committee noted the continued correctness of the social grant policy enabling indigent individuals to receive $350 per month, the NWC further upheld and appreciated that the masses of the people first and foremost want jobs as basis for sustainable livelihood. The Working Committee noted the importance of the Reserve Bank working in conjunction with Treasury to effect measures that will mitigate against high inflation, such as expanding consumer basket goods earmarked for zero rating, on creating employment for sustainable livelihood. Government must look into public works projects such as potholes, repairs on roads, road and bridge construction, as well as increasing sewage capacity to improve the health conditions of our people. We have also held a bilateral meeting with the SACP. Both the ANC and the SACP agreed that the meeting was long overdue, whilst welcoming the opportunity to meet. High on the agenda of this meeting were organizational and governance issues. On the African Leaders Peace Mission to Ukraine and Russia, the SACP commended the role played by President Cyril Ramaphosa, which, among others, focused on continental food security and trade on critical goods such as fertilizer. In addition to discussing geopolitical issues, the bilateral meeting between the ANC and the SACP also discussed the upcoming BRICS parties political plus dialogue scheduled for 18th to 20th of July 2023, and the BRICS summit scheduled for August 2023. Other issues discussed within the context of the state of the NDR was the high unemployment levels, with 11 million people unemployed, which could be linked to the colonial apartheid monopoly structure of the economy. It was also agreed that land redistribution must be accelerated. The SACP further called on government to increase state investment in the economy. Both the ANC and the SACP discussed a number of critical issues of mutual concern, and also agreed on further bilateral engagements on a number of issues going forward, amongst which includes the economy and energy issues. We also discussed the reconfiguration as proposed by the SACP, and we agreed that the centrality of alliance partners in key decisions that are taken is critical and must be maintained. There were also consensus towards dealing with issues of violence and repression throughout the African continent, such as the situation in Eswatini. With SANCO, the ANC continues to be seized with the important task to help SANCO attain unity as well as rebuilding a stronger organization. Tomorrow we'll have a joint briefing with the interim leadership of SANCO to outline a roadmap towards the unity process of SANCO, and holding of a SANCO national conference this year. We'll reflect on that. We have engaged with SANCO at different levels, different groupings, and SANCO veterans. SANCO on its own have arrived at an agreement that they need to work together as the different groups that came out of the Conference of Alexander, which is the original conference of SANCO, and the breakaway conference that was held in Durban. Both groups have come together through what they call an integration process. We have met also with SANCO elders led by Tozamile and some splinter groups from the groups of Alexander and so on, the likes of Dagani, who was expelled by SANCO, who are working under the veterans of SANCO. We have also met with them, and in this particular regard, we have shown interest in ensuring that SANCO lead its own process towards its own unification and deal with whatever challenges of leadership that arise among the warring, in a lack of better characterization, parties within SANCO. So tomorrow we will then outline a joint integration program of SANCO towards the SANCO National Conference. The Public Protector report, the NWC further reiterated its support of the Office of the Public Protector and welcomed the report by the Acting Public Protector on allegations pertaining the criminal events that took place at the Palapala farm involving theft of money. The ANC reiterates that it is only opportunists who seek to abuse the provision of the Executive Ethics Code. To suggest the President violated the provision therein. The ANC welcomes the Public Protector report, which found nothing untoward in the conduct of the President, including the fact that there was no evidence of paid work outside his duties as President of the Republic. The ANC reiterates its alarm at the attacks on the integrity of the Office of the Public Protector, merely because some are disagreed with the report by the Acting Public Protector. We view such attacks as undermining our democracy and constitutionalism, because political parties have the right to take the Public Protector's report on review at any given time. But to impugn and attack the integrity of a woman who is leading the process without any legal basis for that matter is incorrect, and it cannot be promoted by South Africans of all walks in our country. Matters must be probed. We are a country that respects the rule of law. Mkhwebana herself, with judgments, she was taken on review and her judgments were set aside in a court of law. And then she won a reputation of being erratic and not legally sound in terms of most of the decisions that she had taken. And there was no attack on her, except the fact that she was being challenged legally by different groups in society. So the ANC as a party has been very consistent in this regard and believe that the institutions and Chapter 9 institutions must be respected, including judges. Nobody is a demigod, including a judge, but the judge's decisions must be taken on sound basis. They can be reviewed, and it has been proven that some judgments on review are actually set aside. And we must follow the rules in terms of the rule of law in our country. On the national dialogue on Russia and Ukraine, the ANC convened a public engagement through a national dialogue on the Russia-Ukraine conflict, which saw the participation of various ambassadors, academics, public commentators, and everybody else. It was a successful event and further solidified our position as a messenger of peace, not war. The ANC reiterated the correctness of its policy stance on non-alignment and anti-war posture. This national dialogue on the Russia-Ukraine conflict appreciated that our non-aligned and anti-war stances enabled our country, represented by President Cyril Ramaphosa, to effectively and directly participate in the African Leadership Peace Mission, meeting both Ukrainian President Zelensky and Russian President Putin, urging them to end the war as a matter of agency. Emerging in the dialogue was also discouraging other countries from arming either Russia or Ukraine that fuels the war further. The ANC practically demonstrated that dialogue across antagonistic parties is not only possible but the only way to resolve differences and various areas of conflict, which was the premise of our negotiated settlement, ushering in the new post-1994 democratic dispensation. We had a robust discussion, especially between Europe, particularly Russia and Norway, which came from different views, which was quite interesting. And we believe that that is what characterizes the importance of talking and engaging, even if people don't agree, but it is important to engage. The NWC noted the continued positive strides made by the ANC in various by-elections. The Working Committee noted the increases in voter registrations and will in due course report on further strides being made. The ANC will focus on social categories such as the youth as first-time voters as well as women on voter registration. The Working Committee believes churches and Amakosi can play an important role to encourage and increase voter registration. The ANC Women's League National Conference. The preparations are at an advanced stage towards convening the ANC Women's League National Conference. The Women's League National Conference will be held from the 14th to the 16th of July, 2023. Eskodini is Kamaminzel, Nazareth. So we're going back to Nazareth, Youth League, ANC, and the Women's League. So next week it is the Women's League that is going to Nazareth. So we wish them well, and we will also again want to reiterate, we are working with the Women's League to ensure they convene a successful conference. We do not interfere with their choices of who they want to elect and the political content of conference. We are nonetheless dealing with the issues that are pertinent in relation to the matters that affect the successful holding of a national conference of the Women's League. On Banyana Banyana, the ANC congratulates Banyana Banyana as they prepare to participate in World Cup and wish them every success. whilst we commend the resolution of the disputes between SAFA and Banyana Banyana, we further urge SAFA to appropriately incentivize these national heroines for once more for putting our country on the world map through this World Cup participation. We thank the proactive role by the Minister of Sports, Arts and Culture, Comrade Zizi Koda, for helping resolve the impasse between SAFA and Banyana Banyana. We call on corporate South Africa to fully support efforts at professionalizing women football in South Africa. That is important because they support only men football, and it is important that SAFA must move with speed to professionalize women football, working with PSL and everybody. We commend the Minister for bringing everybody together to resolve this particular impasse. Incentivizing our women, young women, like Banyana Banyana, nobody should apologize for that. We think that their demands were legit and nobody could ignore them. Otherwise, we were going to rally the country as a whole to boycott that World Cup, because it cannot be at the expense of ignoring genuine demands of Banyana Banyana and simply trample over them as though they mean nothing. These women have done us proud as a country. They've won the Africa Cup. They've improved a lot under Desiree Ellis. They've improved a lot. You can't even compare them to Bafana Bafana. You can't compare them. They overtook Nigeria and many other nations in the African continent, South Africa in Africa, which is what is important. They are a force to be reckoned with. So Banyana Banyana was good for everybody who came to the party and raised their voices, women groups, and everyone to stand up for an injustice that has been done to these young ladies of our country who continue to fly the flag. SAFA must get its house into order. We don't want to interfere. Minister must work with them to get their house into order and to have a clear plan for football, including for women in our country. On police road rage that involved the VIP protection of Minister, the Deputy President Mashatile, the ANC was extremely alarmed by the news of a road rage incident involving members of SAPS assigned to protect the Deputy President. This was not only cowardly, but runs against the grain of what SAPS must stand for, which is to protect all members of society. We believe that the majority of the policemen and women serve our country diligently, but such incidents put a serious blight on the police service as a whole in their selfless national service in our country. We accordingly urge the Minister and everyone involved to allow IPIT to investigate this matter with, as a matter of urgency, to check whether there were indiscretions in terms of the police activity, because we cannot answer why they acted in the manner which they did. We saw a small polo and then people being trampled upon by police. We don't know what provoked that activity. IPIT must investigate that. What was involved? What threat did they see in that polo that made them to act in the manner in which they did? And no stone must be left, to check everything to ensure that this matter is properly investigated. That the alleged perpetrators of this violence be immediately suspended and ensure consequence management in this regard should they be found to be in the wrong. We call for the suspension of those who were involved and ensure consequence management in this regard should they be found to be in the wrong. The ANC also condemns the road rage incident that saw an off-duty SAPS police officer allegedly shot to death a Metro police officer. What was unfortunate was that the violent altercation resulting in the tragic death involved 2 officers charged with enforcing the law. We call on government to support all police officers, both SAPS and Metro Police, through appropriate occupational support as they discharge their work mandates to avoid such incidents resulting in injury or death. We also call on the IPID to investigate this incident and ensure any possible appropriate consequence management where wrongful conduct is ascertained. We note that this activity of officers on duty doing their job that they are employed by government to execute is now blamed on the ANC. The ANC as a brand is tarnished by opportunists, by chance takers, who at any given point they jump to the opportunity to attack the organization. We are equally dismayed by acts like those and will never support anything that tramples on innocent citizens, especially civilians. We go around this country with our cars and everywhere, and people show us the middle finger. Sometimes when we're within the state, people hate blue light with passion, especially in the Western Cape, when a premier illegally banned blue lights when it's not a call. And then in the Western Cape, once you put on a blue light, you must be rest assured that you are divided there by the citizens. And it has happened throughout the country, so where people will not want to move when they're supposed to move, because blue light is blue light. It's meant for a particular purpose. So in this particular instance, we believe that people must act with caution. There should be serious aggravating circumstances that lead somebody to act in the manner in which they did. But we can't all be investigators. Let's say by now somebody would have died. Those police officers must account for their actions. Why did they take such action on that polo and the occupants? And the whole of that area they were in is very easy to see what happened, because it's covered with monitoring 24/7. So nobody must come and tell us they didn't see what happened. That whole area, all of it is covered. So it will tell us through the investigation who was on the wrong. And those who are on the wrong, the law must take its course. And if citizens were on the wrong side of the police obstruction, of the police work, they too must be educated and be brought to book. But those incidents are very, very bad, especially to unarmed people, ordinary civilians, being kicked like football like that. It is really worrisome. The ANC condemns on the very strongest terms this act of violence in our streets. And we want to urge IPID, under the leadership of NWC, to ensure that this matter is investigated and properly reported to the public, because it's a matter of public importance. It is easy point scoring to apportion blame on the Deputy President, who doesn't carry out his own protection, but people are employed to protect him. And those people are law officers. So in this particular instance, we must focus on those who execute the implementation of the law to ensure that they do it appropriately, and that is what is important. The ANC will hold its National Executive Committee meeting from Friday to Sunday this coming weekend, and various issues for discussions and implementation will include combating crime, employment creation, water and sanitation, and generally the state of the economy, with focus on the relevant interventions that must be made. The ANC will be seized with accelerated implementation of its National Conference resolution on a number of socio-economic challenges such as service delivery. But over and above that, we have made a commitment that this year is the year of acting decisively in the interest of the people. This NEC will equally make that evaluation through the intervention of our government on these particular matters. That includes electricity supply. Condolences, the NWC tips its revolutionary banner in honor of the memory of comrades Mahuma, Katija, Kachalia, Noganiwe, Antinyatela, Junet, Pahat, and Salimon Klan. We convey our sincere and profound condolences to their loved ones. And they will be remembered for their selfless contributions to the struggle for our freedom and democracy. The ANC received with shock and deep sadness the news of the tragic passing on of Comrade Dr. Denny Mokumo, who died on the 3rd of July in a car accident involving a truck on the N1 in Limpopo on his way home from the 26th Congress of the ANC Youth League. Comrade Denny Mokumo was the current branch chairperson and BC member in Ward 31, TJ Lidwaba branch in the Mukupani Mukhalakwe sub-region, which is part of the Waterberg region in the Limpopo province. The ANC sends its deepest condolences to his family, relatives, comrades, and friends. Thank you very much.
Thank you, SG. At this point, may I just take the first 4 hands, and then we will then look to the next round of questions. I'll start to my right. Please proceed.
It's Eyewitness News. I just have one. With the bilateral that you held with the SACP on the political party BRICS summit, did you, as the alliance partners, discuss the ongoing debate on the possibility of the economic freedom fighters being part of the summit for political parties in BRICS? Thank you.
Thank you very much. My brother over there.
SG Bulali Jones, ENCA. Just maybe your reaction on the latest updates coming from the Johannesburg High Court, in which it says former President Jacob Zuma's private prosecution against the President Ramaphosa has been declared unlawful and unconstitutional. This in regards to the private prosecution which was applied to have the President, of course, prosecuted.
Thank you very much. May I turn to you, Mrs. over there, and then to Sangula.
Daniel's Portal from Kaya FM. SG, just one question around the Blue Line saga. As the ANC, in terms of the discussions around blue lights on the roads and following this incident, will there be continued engagement about, some sectors really arguing that the blue lights should be removed off the roads, as you had mentioned what's happened in the Western Cape, or has that discussion almost been closed to say they need to be there for the purposes that they serve, is there an ongoing discussion about them?
Thank you very much. Somebody?
Mr. Mbalula, something about the SABC. Andrew Lungisa tweeted that this report, even his 8-year-old son, Cuba, would not approve of it. It seems as if there is disagreement amongst some of the ANC members on this particular report. As the ANC, what should we be doing with Andrew Lungisa, going against the ANC NWC, welcoming this particular report, and him speaking against it, saying even his 8-year-old son wouldn't approve of it. Secondly, on the issues pertaining...
Can I just clarify, we're talking about the Pala report?
The
public protector?
Yeah.
Okay. Noted. Thanks. Please proceed.
Secondly, on the issues pertaining to KwaZulu-Natal, when are you going back to KwaZulu-Natal as the NWC? You postponed your extended PC meeting with them on Friday. Have you finally decided on which region you will be threatening for disbanding after the NWC visit to the province? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm going to take Ntebu, and then we'll take a second round after that.
Okay, I'm with the SABC. I've seen that there's going to be a manifesto review. I don't recall in the past that we've ever had a manifesto review. What might have necessitated this process? Is it because, or is it a realization or an admission that there hasn't been a full or vigorous implementation of the manifesto of the ANC over the past elections, over the past successive elections? And maybe if we revert back to the ANC Youth Conference, there are some allegations that the audit report was not presented in the conference, or the people who adopted the credentials. People were adopting the credentials while some are still registered. So that on its own then throws the conference into the SRA in terms of whether the conference that adopted, or the delegates that adopted that those credentials met the minimum requirement of 70%.
You done?
Yes.
Oh, thanks very much. SG, maybe you could tackle those for now.
I see you are not interested in the economy. So. Okay. Thank you very much, colleagues, for the questions. First, the issue of the EFF being part of the BRICS summit. No, that was not discussed. If the EFF want to be part of the summit, which is convened, the party plus by the ANC, they have to do that in writing. So we have not received anything in writing from the EFF asking to be party to the BRICS Plus summit. President Zuma, the public prosecution declared unlawful. I think we welcome the outcome of the courts, and therefore we hope this matter gets settled at that point. We have not been very much vocal about this matter, but nonetheless, we don't want to infringe on the rights of individuals when they defend what is duly their own integrity and their own right to take matters of that nature for public prosecution or whatsoever. So the matter now has been brought to where it is. We hope it settles the matter once and for all. But nonetheless, we welcome the outcome of this judgment. Kaya, the issue of blue lights, of course, the Minister of Police must apply his mind. Whether I know that when I was in the police, we guided public representatives and the bodyguards. The blue light is used only when you are on duty, and that's it. And then it's not just used at random when you visit your friend for a drink and so on. Or you go visit whoever. So to an extent that this could be interpreted as abuse to a certain extent. So the Minister of Police, I think, as you asked the question, will have to look into that. But blue lights are not the problem. The problem is the behavior. The police have got the discretion, guided by the law, to act where they see threat. So IPIT must then investigate the police, whether there have been indiscretions in them executing and doing their work. Was it fair what they did? What we saw through the eye, of a man in the street, we saw brutality. We saw people being trampled upon. Honestly, it's a kind of thing that makes people to march and take down a government. It angers you. I saw a lot of people on social media frowning upon that. It's the kind of thing that can get people into the street. So it must never be taken light what those cops did. That's why we need to get to the bottom of that, and we've got checks and balances to do so. IPIT must investigate them. And that's why we say, as the ANC, if they are on the wrong, there must be consequences. But as an immediate action, they must be suspended so that they do not interfere with evidence. As I'm sitting there as a VIP, being the deputy president, I wouldn't know the people who follow and protect me. I wouldn't know the bullets that come towards my direction. But those who are protecting me will know. So if somebody says, the Mbalula in a blue polo, red or white, was having arms or was drunk, the police must act diligently to prove that we acted on this group of people because they were interfering with our work. And they were doing the following things that aggravated the sort of action that we needed to take. Because there are levels of action you take when you are confronted with danger. So when VIP protection comes and they warn you, like in that case, you need to move. You need to move. Unless if you resist or you do all of those particular things, then they've got to act on you and so on. So, me and you, we only saw the snippets. We don't know where it started and what made them to act. So, accountability means they must answer. There's nothing wrong with that. They must answer. Because it will be an act of brutality forever. And society will be helpless. It will be a political football rather than a matter that citizens themselves have got to react to, and those individuals to say, we have been unfairly attacked and all of that. It will be political football that will be used through name dropping of the ANC. Like I've seen, that's very cheap. When there is a problem, the first thing you call is ANC. Now, I saw in inverted commas a headline in a particular newspaper saying ANC protectors. I mean, ANC protectors. I mean, where were ANC protectors? These people are cops. They are trained as police. They are trained, they've got a handbook that they go through to protect the presidency. You don't just pick up any cop. You pick the best. You cannot play next to the president. You saw even in parliament when Julius tried to attack the president, they just show you film for 5 minutes. What will happen to you? So you don't just come deal with anyhow with the head of state and so on. And this is second in command. But I wanted to know, you want to know, everybody wants to know, what did these citizens do to warrant that kind of a brutal attack? That was brutal. If you look at it, they leave you lying there. You don't know whether the person is dead or alive. They leave you there. They get into the car, they leave. That's brutal. And then they look like youngsters, those people. I don't know whether they are old or what. We don't know. We don't know whether they were drunk or what happened. We don't know. So there must be an investigation on the matter fully. We support. I was not aware of Andile. The first thing I will do as the Secretary General is to ask him, and I need that tweet of Andile, because the era of rogueness is over. Because Andile is a member of the NEC. He cannot say what he likes and distance himself from statements of his party and organization as a member of the National Executive Committee. He can't. He can't do that. He must explain. Is either the good explanation he will give to me is that that is fake. If it is true, I'm going to charge him. I will charge him. I will charge Andile if he said what he said. I will charge him. I'll take him to the DC because he can argue that case in the National Executive Committee. When the organization has spoken on the matter, the point of reviewing it is the National Executive Committee. We speak here on behalf of the NEC. We can't allow NEC members to undermine positions of the organization and expect the membership to follow. Cannot be the case. It cannot be. It means it will be a free-for-all. It will be a free-for-all. Anyone, anyhow, can express themselves. Fine and good if they are ordinary members. We'll brief them. Maybe they don't get to understand where do we come from on this matter. When you are an NEC member, you are privileged. You sit in the NEC. You argue your case in the NEC. What is he going to tell us in the NEC? When he has already told the whole world, I'm saying all of this in case he has not said this. If he has said it, I will charge him. Because he's crossing the line. And I can't ask members of the organization, or we can't ask members of the organization to behave. And members of the National Executive Committee don't. And since I got this question in this press conference, I was not aware of this. I will have to get that comment of Andile. I will write to him. I will speak to him as well to ask him, ubustini ke mhlekazi xa ubuthetha le nto ukuyithetha usithuka le nto kutsho uyenzi kuthiwa uyenzi. What were you saying? Because you are insulting the organization when you say this report, whereas we say that we welcome the report. So we don't know which side you are on. We will go to KZN after the NEC meeting. We will go to KZN after the NEC meeting. We're reviewing the manifesto, looking at how far we have gone. We know that we have done very well in terms of the manifesto. We are going to say how far we have gone growing South Africa together. What have been the impediments in terms of this task? Before we even get to next year, how far have we gone? When you look at the people who criticize us here, and you will hear them on social media, ANC has failed. And others, they say, in the 29 years, we have failed. We don't even look at the 29 years, we look at the past 5 years. In the past 5 years, we have had 2 years where we were fighting one common enemy, which was COVID, which at least we know now, it took 2 million jobs. And there are critics in this process who say, since this administration came into power, we have only created 21,000 jobs. So we have asked Rizanga from State SA to come to the NEC when we review the manifesto from a point of view of statistics, not thumb-sucking. with all the challenges we've got, what has this economy done? Where is it now? Just on the aspect of job creation. I'm not talking about a yes-say. If we created 20,000 jobs, that should be fine. We did. And we respond to that particular question. On the whole range of issues we have promised in the manifesto we'll do, how far have we gone? What have we done? Amidst all these challenges, because at the end, when you say to the people, re-elect me, you must start first by saying, as the incumbent, what have you done? So that's what we're going to say when we are done. And we're not going to say it in secrecy. We're going to say it in public. That's why we're going to say, we've done so much, and therefore we still have got to do this much going forward. And you account. We are not like opposition parties. They've got no responsibility to anyone. They just wake up and join everyone who complains every day. We bear a bigger responsibility because we are governing. That's why when we speak all the time, we say to our public representatives, stop complaining like you are not in power. What are you doing with the power that the people have given to us? And that power is in this manifesto. And that is why we do manifesto review, to tell us exactly what have we done. And then we'll subject that to Africa Check, to check, are these things done that you said you will do? And what are the remainder of the things you are doing? Because as we speak, the manifesto is being implemented. And that's what is important for us. So we're discussing crime, water, and all of those things this week, BBBE, because at the beginning of the year, we had about 7 tasks. We said this year we will implement decisively. And that is not, that's what is important to us. The audit report, you don't present the audit you don't present the audit report to conference. Audit is an administrative part of preparing for conference. You audit, you verify, and then you give the number. These are your delegates, and this is your total figure, based on the verification. Then they say you pass audit. That will be the audit. Now you can hold BGMs. You've got the membership that allows you to hold BGM. You embark on the second one, verification. You get verified that indeed the BGMs that were agreed that you need to convene were convened. You conduct the second audit. And that's what takes you to conference. It has got packages in it, and then it says who have you nominated to become a leader and all of that. Then they get consolidated in that program of Andrew Dipela and as well as Tanti Tobias. They then announce the following people qualified. Now, it doesn't stop the democratic process that because they qualify, they cannot be challenged. It then goes to the plenary of Congress. After their announcement, a particular percentage must still nominate you. And then the delegates themselves who come into conference, they must have reached a threshold of over 70%. All of that has been nominated, we reported on all those issues. We reported to the NWC, we reported to the officials, we got the reports from the Youth League. This is the state of affairs, we have reached the threshold. Now, people then sit down and decide, how can we sabotage this conference from taking place? Because they never believed that it will. You see, when you put your energy, your faith, your hope in one thing called collapse the conference, you end up becoming a spoiler and a saboteur. And because you don't have these good intentions of making this conference succeed. Your plan is to ensure that it doesn't happen. Because whatever you want, correct or so, right or wrong, whatever you want, leadership, you want the right leadership and all of that. You think that if this conference were to take place, these things will not be realizable. But unfortunately, the organization doesn't work like that. When we announced that we are moving ahead, we started now to get complaints, even within the NYTT. And the NYTT members started to give you media information. At some point, I refused to comment on them. They started to give you information. I even said to one of your colleagues, do not listen to this one-sided view. And of course, he's doing his job, or her job. But the fact of the matter is that I respect journalists because they do their job. For what they get, they verify. Now, a journalist who doesn't verify anything and just print is called embedded. You know, embedded. You're writing what your bosom friends like. To go to others is just for a comment to justify that to your editor that, no, I spoke to all of them, Chief. I spoke to all of them. I've got even his comment here. They chose not to comment. Then you go ahead with the story. Corrupted as it is, because the prescripts of the law of freedom of speech and press code will allow you to publish. I will never win in court because you did give me a chance and I didn't respond. But the fact of the matter is that you're listening to one person. So they go and then they realize that the stoppage of the conference is not going to happen. You see. So we were determined. Then they started to say that the conference, ANC interfered. When I went to the NYTT, and the first task I addressed you about here, we have actually missed our deadlines. I said to you, the NEC have mandated us in the conference that Youth League, Women's League, everybody, SASCO, COSAS, we must resolve those things. So that by July, we all focused on the task of building the organization. We're running behind. So that's why Women's League is sitting. And then we must resolve COSAS. Those are independent organizations, but we must resolve their issues because it's depleted. We must resolve SASCO issues. They too have got the challenges. SANCO now, we are getting there, and I will announce the way forward tomorrow with SANCO, and so on. Youth League is done. So our task was to focus on this, and we did explain that the process of the Youth League conference and the Women's League will be co-governed, if you can use that word. We will run the process with them because we realized that on their own, there will never be a conference. Because every time this conference of the Youth League must sit, there is a group that is losing. They come influence a vulnerable leadership. You know, leadership of the ANC is vulnerable all the time. You can come sway them by just lying. I've got numbers. And then they start to look at you. Even if you are failing the organization, you are a mess, a disaster. They listen to you. Because you claim you've got numbers, you have quarantined somewhere, somehow. And this person who's in leadership with authority to clean the organization is not acting because he's looking at the numbers. So, all the wrong things gather storm around. Hence, the renewal project must deal away with those things. Leadership is paralyzed, it can't act. And then those people, then they come, they tell the leadership that no, this Youth League conference cannot sit. Make it happen after the election. So that's why the perpetual postponement. At some point, the conference was done. I was told, we were outside. We didn't organize. When the conference was supposed to sit, we were told that it is not ready. But when you are from outside, you can't challenge things because you are taking hearsay from the people who come close to you. Former president, it's not true, the conference is ready. You can't argue because you don't know. At some point, Pule Mahabe had come to a conference knowing very well that this weekend is Yaduman president. When he arrived, delegates, everything, the hall full, you were there. They were told right at plenary by President Zuma that conference is cancelled. Cancelled, is not sitting. Not that any other thing. They were there, branches, regions, full. I was there. I was invited. I was not in the NEC. I went there as a presidential, former president invitee. I arrived at the conference, and then I was even given some time to speak message of support. I thought the conference is proceeding. And then I was told, no, it is not. Why? I couldn't get the reason till today. But later on, I heard that they said Pule will make Julius look like a kindergarten, cannot be allowed to lead the youth league. So it's more dangerous. If you think Malema was something, then the Pule is kitram training that. So, but no, that man cannot lead. Yeah, he was funded by CIA, something like that. Some rogueness just came in and cancelled the legit conference of the Youth League. That was the first. Mzwandile himself, he was acting, he was gone. And then immediately after that, we were appointed. I was appointed convener, Nati was appointed coordinator. We delivered Comrade Colin as the president. At least you saw that conference was proper. So even if there were differences of leadership, but we pursued the conference to go ahead because we had to carry the mandate of the NC. So that's what we did. So what I'm saying to you is that, yes, the conference could not have been totally 100% perfect. You will miss some steps, but they are not major. They are not things, when you look at them, you'll say, materially, they would have altered the outcome, influenced the outcome otherwise, if ever these things were done. You locked out of conference 1,500 people. That would have affected the material. It means there was no conference there. Now you've got more than 2,000 people. You know, as I conclude, when a person loses a conference, for us who have lost conferences before, and loses a conference, and then he says, no, I've lost a conference and this conference was not legit. And then you ask, how many people attended the conference? And then they say, 1,000 and so on. And then you say, well, now, what is the difference between you and the person who lost? He says about 400. You realize there's no way that 400 people could be, crooks or something. This person have lost. Even if you try to recover, you can reconvene that conference 15 times. There's no way that that person will win or she will win the conference. So there is no material effect that would have made us to look otherwise. There were challenges. Those challenges were attended to effortlessly. And that is what has actually happened. And I want to thank many people here in terms of that conference, Tandi Tobias, the Electoral Commission, and Druza and all others. We will thank them properly and so on, but they did a splendid work. They produced the result by Monday morning, clean result. And election, we want to thank them and all the young people who came and were very disciplined. TG called me this morning and said, yeah, thank you, you finished the conference, you didn't have cost overruns. Because normally, cost overruns will mean you stay an extra day or so. And condolences to this comrade who passed away. So we're now looking at the Women's League. And thank you to all young people who have accepted that it's not all in vain, and some of them, in my view, should have been in the NEC. They are not there. But they are still young. They are still young even to serve in the ANC. And I think we'll continue to work with them and to nurture them and to work with them. And I think they must look at this as an experience. The Youth League now, leadership, has got a mammoth of task of reversing the 8 years backlog, to work very hard, to assert itself, win the hearts and minds of young people as the leader of the youth in the Republic of South Africa. in the past 8 years, nobody has emerged as the leader of the youth. Even the Youth League in its interim state continued to be bemoaned by many that the structure is dead and so on, and there is no alternative. So the Youth League is here now. We'll see with time whether it is back or is something else. But we're confident that the Youth League is back. Thank you.
I'm certain that any other question that was to be asked has been comprehensively covered in the comprehensive responses of the SG. We have been here, we have been at it for a long time. But thank you very much, members of the media. And any follow-up questions, you know where to find us. Thank you very much. This press conference is adjourned.